Hey folks, this is a video that will review what's on the first quiz, which is posted at 8 o'clock on Friday. On the quiz, there will be 3 trig equations that you have to solve where you have to find both angles between 0 and 360. There will be finding the period, 3 of those, 2 where you have to find the amplitude, and 2 where you have to find the midline. When you're taking the quiz, make sure you write every problem down and show all of your works. For example, when you're finding the trig equations, I want you to draw the circle and draw in the 2 angles and then show how you found those. All right, so first off, just as a review, knowing where sine, cosine, and tangent are positive and negative is crucial to solving trig equations. So the tangent is negative in quadrants where the sine and the cosine are opposite sides. So the tangent is going to be negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4, because that's where sine and cosine are opposite. Cosine is positive in quadrants. Well, that's the x-coordinate, remember. Cosine goes with x. So tangent is y over x. Cosine is x. X is positive in quadrant 1 and 4. And then finally, sine is negative. Remember, sine is the y-coordinate. Negative in quadrants 3 and 4. All right, so we're going to use the following equation, like generic equations, for remembering how to find the period of a sine or cosine function. So when you're looking at that generic equation, the period is going to be found by taking 2 pi divided by that b value and then simplifying. What letter in the equation represents the amplitude? That would be the a, or the coefficient. And remember, that's always positive. And then what letter represents the midline? That would be, or the vertical shift, that would be d, the number that's added on. When you're showing your work for those problems, drawing out the graph and drawing what the amplitude is or where the midline is would be enough work to be shown, as well as writing down the equation if there's an equation given. All right, so when you're solving a trig function and the cosine here isn't solved for, you got to solve for the cosine. So I would subtract 3 cosine c, subtract 6, and so that's going to give me 5 cosine c equal to 1. So then I divide by 5. So now I've got an equation that's equal to a positive number. So it's saying cosine is positive. So that's going to occur in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. I'm trying to move my... Okay, so I have a, sorry, I'm going to put it down here and here. So if I have this, that's going to represent theta sub 1. If I have this, that's going to represent theta sub 2. And actually in the examples, it would be c sub 1 and c sub 2. So then I would take the inverse of cosine to get that first angle, which is going to be 78.5 degrees. In Delta Math, they're going to ask you to round to the nearest tenth. So then to get the second angle, which would be called c sub 2, because they didn't use theta, I would have to take 360 minus 78.5 degrees. So that second angle is going to be 281.5. Okay, let's do a second one. This is sine. When you solve, you're going to subtract 2 sine c and then add 12. So that's going to give you negative 8 sine c equals 8. So you divide by negative 8, divide by negative 8, you get sine c equals negative 1. Okay, now This came up as a question from people before. When you get sine or cosine being 0 or 1 or -1, can you see that that will only fall right on the axes? So when I look at sine C being -1, where is the y coordinate -1? That only occurs at 270 degrees. So sometimes there's only one answer, okay, when it falls on an axis. So my answer would be C equals 270, and that would be the only solution. All right, and that's just a special case when sine or cosine is 0 or positive or -1. All right, so finding the period. So when you get this in Delta Math, I would expect you to write this equation down, and then the period is going to be 2 pi divided by that coefficient of x, 6 pi. So that's just going to give you 1/3. That would be enough work to show. When you're given a graph, this case it's asking for the amplitude, sketch the graph, and you could either like show the distance here, or you could put a point at a max and a point at a min. And so the complete distance is 2. So the amplitude is going to be half of that. So really it's 2 divided by 2, which is going to be 1. Drawing the graph would be enough to show. In this same problem, if it asked you for the midline, okay, so what is the equation for the midline? That midline is right here. So if you just dash that in and write the equation, so it'd be y equals -2, that also would be enough work to show as long as you've sketched the graph. All right, so you're going to go to Delta Math and take the quiz. And I might post that quiz earlier so that when you have free time today, you could actually get it done. So don't forget to upload your work and get everything done by 8 o'clock on Sunday night. That's including the assignment for this week. What is the puzzle? That would be no U-turn. I'll admit I have done that before, taken a U-turn when there isn't one. Ugh, not good. Hope you have a great day, folks.